Go right into it. All right, so the title of tonight's message is When You're Going Through Hell, Don't Pitch a Tent. It's really good advice if you think about it. If you're going through hell, don't pitch a tent. How many of you have been through hell before? How many of you don't have any intentions of going back there? But how many of us seem to find ourselves there? Right? But the key is don't pitch a tent. And so for some of us, right now we might be working through a crisis. For other of us, we might be in a really nice, easier season right now. How many of you have ever had the thought go through your head that when you're in a good season and things seem to be pretty easy and things are kind of just moving along kind of nicely, how many of you get that gut feeling that it's about to change? Anybody? You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it's like, things have been really easy lately. I must be getting set up for something. Something might be about to change. And sometimes the about to change can be a trauma, an unforeseen accident, an unforeseen death in the family. Sometimes the trauma can be a major breakup, which to me is not necessarily a major trauma, but for some people, depending on their emotional capacity and their emotional maturity, a breakup could be rather traumatic. I have been through a lot of traumas in my life, and I really shouldn't be alive in all reality. And I kind of have a certain way of pushing through really hard stuff. And tonight I wanted to share with you some of those simple steps of pushing through really hard stuff, whether it's to prepare you for the next season that will happen in your life. We all get to have stuff that hits the fan, right? And it's crappy and it's nasty and it's not fun to talk about. However, I think it's wise to be prepared for whatever season it is that you're walking into. And if you're walking in some really hard, nasty stuff right now, like hopefully this is going to be like a lifeline for you to kind of pull you through to the other side. And so I just wanted to kind of give you some truths that I found inside of this book that I really love. And if you could learn to read the book, not as a religious book, but just as a massive piece of wisdom and guidance and direction, instructions on money, instructions on debt, instructions on life in general. It's just really good, rich, meaty stuff that pretty much all of the self-help books that are out there have really just drawn all from this book and just changed the names of things. But if you want like well, let's just put it this way. I don't care how many authors there are. I don't know of too many whose books are still here thousands of years later. Do you know what I mean? There's not too many that have lasted the test of time through all cultures around the world, all kinds of different languages and tongues. Do you understand? Different mindsets and ways all over the world. The same book has traveled all over the world, and the book has changed people's lives. And again, the sad part is that then man kind of gets involved with it and turns, twists and spits out and takes out and flips things around and creates a religion out of it. And from there, now we have control and lack of acceptance and things like that, even though the book is not about that. And so by the end of this year, I will have completed my 17th time cover to cover of this book. Why? It's my most favorite book. I can't get enough of it, and I read it nearly every single day, and pretty much a lot of pages every single day. If you're going to read it in a year, it's like you got to read 3 pages a day. That's not much to complete the book in a year. Many of you have read books thicker than this. How many of you read books thicker than this? Yeah. And so, I mean, if you like blood and guts and gore, if you like high drama and some sci-fi, it's in here. It's all in here. There's animals talking in here. There is. There's all kinds of weird stuff that happen inside this book. And so if you like an adventurous book, it's right here. There's some steamy, hot, like almost porn romance inside of this book. I'm serious, like, whew, okay. Like it's intense. Yeah, there's lots of great stories in here. And it's mostly a lot of stories of families who are totally dysfunctional. That's what it is. It's just filled with dysfunctional stories. You know, we got a father-in-law that wants to kill his son and his son-in-law. You know, you got people, you know, just doing not the best of things. And it's all inside this same book that people like to make everybody perfect in. But there's not a single perfect thing in the book, quite honestly, including, I would say, Jesus the Messiah, that you would argue with me. But really, like, he ticked a lot of people off. He was considered a rebellious man. I mean, he like got in the face of people that were in high positions to the point that they killed him. Do you understand? So you know, depending on how you see that, there's really not a perfect, if you will, person inside this book. There's not anybody in here that didn't hurt somebody's feelings. Do you know what I mean? That didn't do things weird. You know, there's nobody in here that did everything right all the time. And doing everything right is according to who? Their own perception, everyone's perception, right? So anyway, as we venture off in this, I also wanted to kind of just invite you in a bit more of a casual setting. I really don't prefer standing here. It's not my favorite thing to do. I wish we were kind of sitting in my living room and us just sitting around, you know, on the floor, Indian style, talking, or hanging out in the pool like right now would be good in Texas. Not here. It's cold here. It is so cold here. I've been cold since I landed. It's so cold. I miss the sun beating my back because that's what it feels like in Texas. Hi, I'm here. But here I'm like, where is it? Like, where's the heat? Anyway, but yeah, like just hanging out somewhere in our yard or in our living room or probably in the kitchen, I'd be feeding you. Does anyone like to eat? It's a perfect marriage. I like to cook and you like to eat. It's a match made in heaven. So I want to invite you, no matter what your flavor of faith is, please don't become weird with me tonight. That all of a sudden you're going to judge me through the scope of religion. I have very tight pants on, high red heels, red lipstick, and a red shirt. That already disqualifies me to talk about anything religious, right? Doesn't it? But I really don't care. This is an amazing book. The book has saved my life multiple times, and I wore this on purpose just to make some people mad. Because we're actually going to talk about being mad. Oh, that's a great question. There's two different versions that I really love. I've read all different types of versions through the last 20 whatever years that I've been reading the book. But the version I'll be reading from tonight is called the Institute for Scripture Research. It's called Scriptures. And I love this one because it's straight from the Hebrew to English. And the Bible was written in Hebrew and the New Testament was written in Aramaic. And so I like having like the more closer to the original language. And I've studied a lot of those cultures because that helps you to understand where they were coming from the best you can from thousands of years ago when it was all written. So this is my favorite version by far. It keeps all the Hebrew names intact, and I love that because it helps you to remember that this did not happen in California. The book wasn't written in Seattle. It wasn't written in the United States. When you hear the Hebrew names, it's like, oh, this is not from here. This is from Israel and Iran, that whole Middle Eastern area, and the people were not blonde-haired and blue-eyed. They were dark hair and dark eyes, and I love all these pictures of Jesus as a blonde, blue-eyed white man. Unless you're in Africa, he's a black man. It's probably closer. The black guy is probably closer, certainly than the Catholic Jesus, who's blonde-haired and blue-eyed with some weird thing over his head. That I've never seen over a human before. But anyway, so That's the one that I like to read from because and the other part, the reason why I like it also is because it actually has God's name in it. The Greek translators took his name out of the Bible, and it says, in one of the 10 Commandments is, don't bring my name to nothing. And yet we took his name out, which meant we brought his name to nothing, and we gave him a title, God, or Lord, which means master. And so I don't really like that. I like seeing his name, speaking his name, just like King David spoke his name, and all these other people in here spoke his name. So his name is in here, which is Yahweh, and so are all the other Hebrew names. So please forgive me if I botch up the Hebrew names. I am learning Hebrew just because I like it, and it's hard, and makes me sound really strange. It's awesome. The other version that I really love, that I really recommend y'all get, is the version that is Aramaic to English, New Testament. Aramaic to English. It has Aramaic on one side of it, which is all the same Hebrew letters, and then English. And so that's the direct translation from Aramaic to English. I love that. It's by Netzari Press. You can get it at Amazon.com. That's where I got mine, and I love it. It's amazing. There's a lot of historical data inside there also. Great publisher. I think they did an amazing job. So it's Netzari Press, Aramaic to English, New Testament. So that's the other one that I generally read the New Testament from. I don't have that one with me this weekend.
We are coming up with a new translation.
That's great. I just figured that out. Yeah.
I'm the translator of the Aramaic English New Testament.
Hi. I'm Dani. I've told lots of people about your translation. Nice to have you here. You are welcome. And lots of people about this translation. So, yeah, I advise, especially everyone that I bring to Israel, that they get a hold of that. Those are really important things to have, and it lends a lot of interesting context to some things. And some things that are just flat out strange. Anyway. So if you were in my house, sorry to tell you, I would pray. I'm one of those weird praying mothers. So I'm going to pray because you're in my house. Father, thank you so much for tonight, and I say Shabbat Shalom to you. Thank you, Father, for giving us this day. Thank you for helping us get through this day. Thank you for all of your truth and all of your training. Thank you that you love us as your children, that you are rich in mercy and slow to anger and gracious and compassionate. Thank you for your peace that passes all understanding. And Father, I pray that you bless the words that come out of my mouth and bless the words that come out of everyone's mouths here tonight, and that you illuminate your truth to your children tonight. I'm so grateful that I am your daughter. I'm so grateful that you rescued me. I'm so grateful that you love me with all of my imperfections and all of my idiosyncrasies and all of my failures and everything in my past and every failure I have in the future that I know that I will probably do. Father, I pray that you open up our ears, our eyes, and our hearts, and that you make things very, very real to us tonight. We invite your presence, your spirit into this place, and I thank you most of all for Yeshua HaMashiach, that is Jesus the Messiah. I thank you that you sent him, that he has cleansed me and everyone who believes in him, that we are cleansed, purified, made whole according to our faith and according to your grace, not because of anything we've done personally, but because of what you've done, what you did 2,000 years ago, knowing that we need a Savior for ourselves. Not because it was between you and them, because you've always made a way for us to escape sin, always made a way for us to be cleansed and purified of it since the very beginning, but that you saw the need in us for something daily, a daily freedom, a daily walk, a daily choice, a daily chance. Yeah, so illuminate your truth in all of us tonight in the name of Yeshua. Amen. Okay, so don't go and get religious on me. I still have a truck driver mouth, or a sailor, whatever one qualifies. Not that all truck drivers talk like that. Sailors do? Did I hear sailors? They do not. I don't know if I'd believe you. I have met a few, and I've gone round and round. I'll just say I can keep up with them. Anyway, okay, so when you're going through hell, don't pitch a tent, but instead, follow these steps, okay? So we're just going to go line by line by line, some things that I cling to, that I choose to hold on to, that I'm currently doing right now at this minute, even standing here on this stage. Right this very second, how I'm making it through this day, how I'm making it through this event is because I am clinging to some rays of hope and truth that have sustained me for years and years and years and years. Now, first of all, I feel it's important for me to kind of share with you a short little synopsis about how in the world did I get to the point where I love this stuff. I grew up in an atheist home. I grew up in a home where the man that raised me, he hated God with everything that was in him, and especially, there's only one thing he hated more than God, and that was the people who claimed to know him. He hated that more than he hated God. And my mom was agnostic. She thought there was a God, didn't know who he or she was, right? So she was just kind of like, she grew up in a traditional Italian family. So, traditional Italian families lean towards Catholicism. Never practiced any of it. They never went to church, mass, whatever you want to call it. They were never a part of anything like that. There was no crosses anywhere in any of the houses. There were pictures of Elvis instead. I'm serious. Elvis and JFK. Those are the pictures in the houses of my aunts and my grandmother. My father ransacked my bedroom, and he found some love letters from a guy named Travis Sluter. And we had just started the 8th grade in a brand new school. We moved from Southern California up to Palo Cedro, California. Does anybody here know where that's at? Oh, shut up. Well, one is my niece who has been there, and the other, I don't know who you are, but... Huh? You do. Sadly, you know where Palo Cedro is. He lives in Redding. So you better know where Palo Cedro is. It means you get out a little bit. It's 8 miles east of Redding, and that's where the manager that's managing this whole thing, she also grew up in Palo Cedro off of Hillview Drive, right off of Deschutes, which is like literally a half a mile from where I grew up, like where her house was and my house was, and she's 3 years younger than I am. Go figure. Anyway, and I'll be heading there on Tuesday. I am going all over the place at the moment. Anyway, so they put us in this private school, a place where we would be controlled, small little classes, had to wear dresses. I never even owned a dress at that point, didn't know how to walk in a dress. I was an athlete, basketball player, used to hoop it up with the guys, sit around, like this, like basketball through, whatever. I was a full-on tomboy, and then I have to wear a dress every day to school. I'm like, how do you do this? How do you, what are those shoes? Pointed little shoes versus my high top tennis shoes, you know what I mean? So anyway, I was like such a fish out of water, and I want you to imagine this. My parents are full-on potheads, and they smoke all day long, and if they wake up in the middle of the night, they take another hit, right? So I want you to picture this. It's a private little tiny school in 2 single wide trailers that have mold in them. They're sitting on a church property, and the church smells musty and old, like it's from like the 20s or something, right? That old. Have you ever been into a church that smells just old, right? So can you picture the little church, right? And then here's these 2 trailers, right? That somebody donated, and these are the classrooms for the entire school, kindergarten through the 12th grade. There are 8 students in the 8th grade class that I'm starting in. My 2 little sisters also are trying to walk in a dress. Because we were just, do you understand what I'm saying? We were just like not right. We just were not right, all right? So we are just terrified. We just moved to Palo Cedro, California. We started in a public school, and a month and a half later, they rip us out of there and put us in this little tiny private school. We just made a few friends. They take us out, and here we go. So picture this. It's our first day at this school. Parents drive us to school. How many of you are familiar with a hot box? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been around anyone who smokes? How do you smell after being with somebody who smokes?
Like a smoker.
You smell like a smoker. You yourself are totally incriminated and smell like a smoker when you've been around somebody who's... Have you ever walked into a house that there is a smoker, but no one has smoked? Have you ever noticed the smell of yourself just by being in the house, even if no one lit a cigarette? You actually walk out smelling like smoke. So let me tell you what a hot box is. A hot box is when you get into a car, all the windows are rolled up, and you light a big old fatty Cheech and Chong joint. That's what my parents did every day, driving us to school. So it's our first day of school, small little classes, 7:30 in the morning, and my parents are hotboxing us for 20 minutes as they drive us to school. So first of all, we are high as kites as we are arriving to a private Christian school. It's just awesome. Imagine a car coming up. It is, have you ever seen the Cheech and Chong movies? I don't recommend that you watch them, but if you want a kind of general idea what I'm talking about, okay? You see the smoke in the cars, right? So like the windows are up and it's just smoke in the car because they're just passing it back and forth. Us three girls in the back, I'm 13. Rhonda would be 11, Marty would be 9-ish. We're all 18 months apart. I don't know any different. This has been my life since I was a baby. Doesn't every parent do this? Isn't this how everybody grows up, right? So we show up. I don't even realize this till years later, like, wow, we totally smelled like weed. No wonder there were issues in the school with us. No wonder we didn't fit in. Total fish out of water, man. So we go, and we eventually have a chapel, like in the middle of the week, and I will never forget this message. I will never forget it. The principal, that I didn't know was the principal, she's just some strange blonde lady, really super tall, gives this message, and all of a sudden I start crying. I'm in the back. I'm the new kid, and I'm sitting there like trying to hide my face because I'm bawling my eyes out based on what she's saying. So all the kids leave, and I'm literally just kind of huddled. My knees are up in front of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm crying. I can't stop crying. She comes over to me, and she says, is everything okay? And I said, yes. She says, do you want to meet Jesus? Yes. And she led me in a prayer. That day, my life changed. That day, something opened up inside of me. That day, I got a piece of hope. Mind you, I had never heard anything from the Bible. I had never heard the story of Jesus dying on a cross and the forgiveness of sins. I had never heard that. For some reason, it resonated with me. My two sisters were in that same chapel, and it resonated with me. And I went home that day, and something was different inside of me. And for some unknown reason, even though all the chaos that was happening, the fights that were happening, all the drama that was happening, all the drugs that were happening, all the crazy music that I still love to this day was happening, even though all of that stuff was happening, there was a sense of peace that I had gained that day. I committed my life to the creator of the heavens and the earth. I had dyslexia. I couldn't read. In fact, I didn't read my first book till I was 21 years old. While I was homeless, I read my first book. So I would take that book and try to make some kind of sense of it. I didn't understand any of it. The words jumped all over the place. Do you understand? They'd go backwards. They'd slide over here. I had a serious case of dyslexia. So not only that, but if I could actually say the words, none of it sank in, no matter what I read. I got through school literally like taking pictures with my mind. I had a photographic memory, and that's often what happens with dyslexic kids, is they overcompensate in another area. So the gift for me was a photographic memory. I could like look at a page and like my mind took a picture of it, and then when it came time to take a test, I could see the page and just answer the questions. Anyway, didn't learn anything, but I could regurgitate from a picture that was inside my mind. So the long and the short of it is that my parents would, be doing what they're doing. I'd run off in the field with that book, and I began to just pray. I would just talk to him. I didn't know what I was doing, but I would just talk to him. When I was 17, I got pregnant, and that changed everything. By the time I was 18, I had experienced Christians that did their best maybe to live that life, but basically really, really fell short. And come to find out, we all fell short, but I had this different idea. Because it was a message that's being talked about love and forgiveness, I expected that those people lived that out. But when I got pregnant, I was harshly judged and blamed, especially by the deacon's parents, that I was the one that seduced their son, which was not true. That's not how it happened. God, as my witness, is the only other person that knows what actually happened. So all of that judgment and all that criticism and then the off-putting, as well as what followed in those next 6-8 months, was incredibly painful. In fact, I experienced more pain from the judgment and the criticism of the Christians, as well as the manipulation from the Christians, than I ever did as a child. And all the beatings and all the molestation and all that stuff that happened in my past, the pain in that time at 18 years old, 17 and 18 years old, with the judgment from the Christians, that hurt more than bruises and blood. That actually hurt more than being molested, because I had trusted these people. I thought I was in a safe place. I thought that they were different than what I had grown up with, but they were the same. There was really no difference between, in fact, to be honest with you, my parents had more integrity. Why? They didn't hide that they were drug addicts, and they didn't care what you thought about it either. But yet the so-called churchgoers, they hid all of their stuff and tried to act like they were sinless. And then when somebody else screwed up, they were quick to judge, quick to put out, quick to reject, quick to slip this thing under the rug. So that pain, at 18, I said, God, if I have to be like your people, I want nothing to do with you. Your people are fill in the blanks. They suck, they're F word times 10. And I wanted nothing to do. And here I became just like the man that raised me. I loved anyone but Christians. If you were a cross around your neck, I'm out. Bye. See ya. Don't want anything to do with you. Fast forward a few years later. I'm 20, on my 23rd birthday, Hans and I land in Hawaii, my husband, boyfriend then, husband now. And we're there for my birthday, and we land and we find out that Damien, my husband's mentor, his wife died suddenly 3 weeks before, and he invited us to go to church. And she was 38 years old, leaving 2 children behind. And so Hans' best friend, Chris, picks us up from the airport, and he says, hey, Damien invited us to church. And I just, I manifested like a principality of darkness. Slithering tongue. I ain't going about blank, 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 blank. Those people are da, 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 da. They're a bunch of losers, blah, blah, da, da, da. You can finish everything else that you could imagine that I said, and probably know what I said without me having to say it. So after fighting this for a good 30 minutes, I finally yielded, and they said, man, his wife died. Dude, just chill out. It's just to honor him. Okay, fine, so I go. The 3 of us go. We're sitting near the back. My feet are on the seat in front of me. My arms are crossed, and I am looking around this room, and I'm judging everybody that is in that place. What a bunch of losers. They don't have a life. They're a bunch of fakes, a bunch of frauds. Can't even believe I'm here. Who is this stupid guy sweating and spitting all over the place? These people are fools. I mean, just the entire time. I am not listening. My mind is just attacking and putting labels on everybody that's inside. I don't know anybody there. But boy, did I hate every single one of them. All of a sudden, I got this kind of conviction inside of my spirit that said, dude, you're going to get bad karma. Now, karma is the same exact thing of the law of reaping and sowing, which all comes from that book in there. The Eastern, meaning I was practicing Hinduism at the time. And it's just their version. Do you know what I mean? Their version of reaping and sowing is karma. It's what you hand out comes back to you. It's a universal law. It's a law that's in place regardless if you believe it or not, bottom line. So you're going to get bad karma is what I hear inside of my soul. And I'm like, crap, you're going to have 5 jerks just like you at your next event. I'm like, oh. So I elbow Hans. I said, give me a piece of paper and a pen. He shuffles around, gets me something. So I decide I'm going to sow some good karma. I'm going to sit forward. I'm going to take some notes and act like I care about what's coming out of that jerk's mouth. So I sit forward. I start taking notes. Wow. Hans goes, dude, you teach that at First Steps to Success. I want I effing know. I didn't know that was in the effing Bible. Could you imagine sitting in a church and there is a guest that's dropping F-bombs right around you and your children? That was me. That was me. A few minutes later, I'm like, this S is good. I'm sorry, this F and S is good. So Chris elbows me. He's like, dude, you teach that. I effing know. I didn't know this F and S was in the Bible. This went on for the next 30 minutes. And I did not get struck with lightning. "30 minutes later, the sweaty evangelist has everyone stand to their feet. It wasn't Hawaii, there's no air conditioning. He was sweating. So was everybody else, for that matter. It didn't smell too good in there either. He has everybody stand up. And he says, repeat this after me. And I lost it again. And I came back to my first love. And I was reunited back to the one true God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, Imeth Echad Elohim, the one true God, the creator of all things, the father of all creation, reunited right back to him. And I've been walking with him ever since. That isn't to say that I haven't failed miserably. That isn't to say that I haven't done some really stupid things. But that is to say that I feel his love in all of my failures. The failures I've had in my marriage, the failures I've done financially, the failures I've done to myself, the failures of what I've done to other people. What I can say is that I've had to deal with the consequences of my own choices. He is there as a loving parent, not the man I was raised by, but one with grace and mercy, and rich in mercy and slow to anger. A father who's a teacher, who teaches and trains and develops his children. In the very beginning, when I first started this journey with him, I saw him how I saw the man that raised me. And then I saw him as the man who abandoned me, my birth father, who is my dad. That's my dad, and we're super close. So in the beginning, I would be like, I don't know if I trust you. I think you're nothing but a dictator. You're nothing but a commie sucker. Everything has to be your way. Or you're like gonna pound everybody. You're just a jerk. I mean, this is how I would talk to him. I was sitting actually not too far from here in Washington, Woodland, Washington, which is like 2 hours away, 2.5 hours from here, on a handmade canoe by my father-in-law. Hans and I are canoeing on this beautiful lake, and literally I'm looking up at the sky and I'm having this conversation. You're just nothing but a commune. You're just nothing but a dictator, authoritative, fascist, jerk. Who has to control everything, and everything has to be your way, and everyone has to worship you. You want your name to be great. This is how I'm talking. And he says, you're not talking about me, baby. You're talking about the man who raised you. And I went, oh, and I lost it. Because he was right. I wasn't talking about him, a loving father who's rich in mercy, gracious and compassionate, slow to anger. I was talking about the man that if I had the wrong look on my face, that if my body language didn't speak what he wanted to do, he's picking my body up and throwing me across the room. To then over to my father, my real dad, that was the next one that I saw. You're just going to leave me. You're just going to put me out. I'm not good enough. No, you're talking about your young earthly father who was crazy when he was young, like everybody is, who didn't make the best choices. That's not me. That's not me. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I'm with you always. So through that book and through that time in prayer, I began to learn who he really is versus who people say he is. And people say what benefits them. But we also make the mistake of depending on one person once a week for 30 minutes to tell you who he is. And that ain't good. You're hearing it through perception of somebody else. So my prayer for you tonight is that you seek him, that your journey with him, whatever that looks like for you, and that you really get to know who he is and why he brought you here. And that he actually does adore you. You don't have to try to look like, act like, talk like, and be like all those people who look like they've been baptized in stinking pickle juice. You know? Who in front of you say all the right language, but behind closed doors, they talk just like everybody else. Just like everybody else. And they do things just like everybody else. All of us have fallen short of the glory of God, which is why we are seeing what? Prostitution in the church today. We're seeing pedophilia in the church. It's been going on for a long time. So this is why when I go back to my parents, I say, they had integrity. What's integrity? You're living out what you are. You're not being fake in front of somebody. My parents came to our school events stoned out of their minds, and they didn't care what people thought. That's integrity. Is it not? Versus the Christians who would hide behind somewhere and get high and pretend like they weren't and quote scriptures while they're sitting in church. High. That's not integrity. Not integrity at all. So that's my journey. I've made a lot of mistakes. I have failed a lot. And my God has been gracious and compassionate with me. So as we journey through tonight and we journey through, I don't want you to get the wrong picture of me. What I can tell you is that while I was coming off of a greatest high I'd ever had, which was on cocaine, one line of cocaine on December 24th, my God spoke to me. Now, that doesn't make any sense. People go to a church to try to hear from him. But I had just offered my body as a prostitute for another line of cocaine. And I'm upset because nobody will give me any cocaine in exchange for my body. I didn't have money for it, so I offered the next thing that I had available. Seriously. I came this close to becoming, getting into the porn industry, this close. I was offered $25,000 for a one-day shoot with Penthouse magazine. 25 grand, while I have $35,000 in debt. I didn't do it. Thank God. Could you imagine? I mean, this is a long time ago. Could you imagine what pictures would be floating around on the internet today? It'd be bad. You wouldn't, well, anyway, so I gotta come back. So after I do this line, literally, after I offer my body even to the cook at the restaurant that I was working for, who I hated, he said, I will find some. I get upset. I go and I dive in the ocean. We were at a beach party. I go and I dive in the ocean at Kua Bay Beach. I dive into the water, and I hear a voice say, pick up your mat and walk. Yes. Pick up your mat and walk. I was in a trance. The fiending for the cocaine left. I went over to my beach mat because that's what I thought it was talking about. I rolled up my beach mat, and I started hiking to my car, which was a mile away, and there was a war going on inside of my soul. That voice, that God, saw me in the filthiest place that I had ever been and did what? Rescued me. That's the creator of the heavens and the earth. That's the creator of the heavens and the earth. Rescued me out of that situation, cleared up the drug issue inside of me, and began the journey of healing me, and began to speak to me, began to lead me, and then he led me to the church that night, a couple years later. In fact, 2 years later. But I'll tell you what, after I went to that church that night and I said that prayer again, I did not step foot in a church for about 6 months. Actually, a year. It was about a year. Why? Terrified. Terrified of who? The people. The people inside the building. I loved my God, but I was terrified of the people. How many of you have ever been terrified of the people? Can you look around the room? Can you raise that hand up high and wave? Because can you just look, scan this room? Scan the room. That is like the vast majority of us. That's the vast majority of us. No small wonder why there's 1,000 churches dying every single month. Why? Because of the fake part that somehow we think we have to be in that building. Well, please don't be fake here. And please, you're not in church, so please just tell the truth. Let's just be real. Don't try to act to be something that you're not. I'm not going to act to be something that I'm not. What you see is what you get. And I'll apologize in advance for offending you because I'm confident I will. So, I've been through hell so many times, friends. We don't even need to keep score, okay? I've been paralyzed from the waist down, and God healed me. My marriage was a disaster for a long, long, long time. We would have moments of bliss separated by earthquakes, tsunamis, twisters, sometimes all at the same time, all in the same minute, all in the same day. I mean, we were like, wah! And then passionate, and then wah! Like we did not know how to do this. Our daughter Erica suffered a double aneurysm and almost lost her life when she was 16 years old. I don't need to continue. I have a long list of traumas that have happened to myself and to our family. And so I have a long history of how do I walk through it. I've had 3 deaths in 8 months this year alone. 3 deaths. 2 very important people. 1, the most important elderly female of my life is the 3rd one so far this year. I've had it where I've been delivered to a hotel to speak in front of a group this size in a wheelchair. Because my back's seizing up on the airplane, and I go to get up, and I cannot move. I've gone through a lot of crap. You've gone through a lot of crap. But how do you come out winning? How do you come out ahead? How do you come out unscathed? How do you come out not like everybody else who's more bitter? How many of you have noticed that the older that people get, the more bitter they get? Do you ever notice that? Do you realize that that is what's ahead of you if you follow in their footsteps? That is the natural tendency for us humans is to become. Remember I said learn more about people than you do everything else and you'll be unusually successful. Well, what I've watched people do is get more bitter and more bitter and more bitter and more bitter, more closed, more hard the older they get. The more cynical, the more critical, the more condemning, the more hardened, the more apathetic. How many of you have watched this? Do you realize you're on that path? That if you don't put into practice the things that I'm going to talk about tonight, and you don't put into practice the things I talked about this morning, that is your destiny. So you literally have to fight to stay alive. And I'm not talking about alive just mentally. I'm talking about all part of you, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You have to fight for it because our natural tendency is death. Dead emotionally, dead mentally, dead physically, dead financially. So I want to equip you tonight to fight the good fight and to come out winning, to come out ahead. So let's go there. I need several people that are going to open the book and read from it. So you're not just listening to me tonight. So I need somebody, I could just have you guys line up right there. Whoever, I need 1, well, raise your hand if you want to read. 1, stand over there. A 2, yes, come on over. A 3, yes, ma'am, come on over, yes. A 4th, yes, ma'am, come on over. I'll take the 5th one, you 2, both of you, come on over. 6, 7, 8. I need a 6. Sure, I'll have her as a 7. And yes, young man, number 8. This should suffice for now. Okay, first person, come over here. You're gonna do Deuteronomy 31, 6 through 8. Second person, you're gonna do Deuteronomy, Nancy, just hand him the mic and they'll just pass it as they go. Second person, Deuteronomy 3:22. You guys want to write these down there for your own references, and this is the thing I'm going to tell you. There is so much life inside of this book, and as I read it, I underline, I highlight, I write notes, and one of the things that I do is I'll put a date and say I received that. Let me tell you something. In this book, it says that life and death is in the power of your tongue. It could say that outside of this book. It's the truth. What you speak, and by the way, scientists have actually proven this, that the speech center of your brain controls your reality. In fact, we're gonna do it right the heck right now. I'm gonna prove right now what that says is true. Not for the sake of turning you into some religious person, but to simply show that there's truth in there. And how do you know the truth? Based on the fruit. based on the results. I need all of you to grab a partner, and I need Chad with me now. Grab a partner. Everybody grab a partner. Everyone needs a partner. You need a partner. I will repeat them. Yeah. Hey, man.
Hey, girl.
I have lower heels. So really, this is where I'm at. 6'3"?
4.5.
4.5.
Close.
Shh. Here's what I'm going to prove to you right now. This is scientifically proven. We are going to demonstrate this right this minute. Life and death is in the power of your tongue. Say it with me. Life and death is in the power of, say, my tongue. My tongue. Life and death is in the power of my tongue. What I want you to do is I want you to take your strongest arm, and I want you to go like this. And I want you to keep those two fingers together as I am going to attempt to pull them apart. What you're going to say is, I love, and it's your wife, your angel. I want you to say, I love, and say her name, trying to hold those together, and I'm going to try to pull them apart.
Okay.
You ready?
Cool.
I love, go ahead.
I love Crystal.
Okay, cool. Now I want you to say, I will try and love Crystal.
I will try and love Crystal.
Oh, so do you or do you not? Would you like to try again? Go ahead. I love Crystal. Keep them together, Chad. You're a big man, 6'4.5". How much do you weigh?
245.
245. I would say at least 200 pounds of solid muscle, easily.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
I love Crystal. Go.
I love Crystal.
Okay. Now I want you to say, I will try and love Crystal.
I will try and love
Oh,
Crystal.
gosh, that just sucks, doesn't it? Aw, what's that, dude? How come you can't say it again? I will try.
I'm trying not to hurt
I'm
your
trying.
hand.
I will try and hurt. I will try and love Crystal.
I will try and love
Oh,
Crystal.
buddy, isn't that terrible? Now you say, I will do my best to love Crystal.
I will do my best to love Crystal.
Okay, and I love Crystal.
I love Crystal.
Okay, and I will try to love Crystal.
I will try to love Crystal.
He is 100 pounds heavier than I am. I'm 5'8", you're whatever. He's a lot taller than I am. He's a man, I'm a woman.
I'm dumbfounded, right?
You don't know what happened, huh? Life and death is in the power of your tongue. Try is a weak word. Try is an attempt to fail. Try is a non-commitment. So when you say, I love Crystal, you have all the power within you. Why? Because life and death is in the power of your tongue. Scientists have proven that the speech center, which is right back here in your brain, controls your entire reality. Your entire reality is controlled by your tongue.
Wow.
Guess where it says that? What the scientists have proven. It says it in the Bible. It says it there. Even Paul wrote about it. The tongue, smallest thing in the body that controls your entire reality. So I want you to do it with your partner. Get with your partner. You each do it on each other. I love, then I will try, then I will give it my best, and then switch. Go hook up with Sean.
I will. I hope I'm good.
Okay. As Yoda quoted the Bible, there is no try. Do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not. So you can try and believe. You can try to trust God. You can try to have faith. You can try to heal. You can try to forgive. You can try to get over it. You can try to move on. You can try to create wealth. Don't even freaking get started. Either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. Period. End of story. It's do or do not. Make a choice. Because try is not a commitment. Giving your best is a commitment. And you can at least commit to that. I'll give it my best shot to go become debt-free. I'll give it my best shot to not pitch a tent while I'm going through hell. I'll give it my best shot to think on things that are higher and better and more healthy for me. I'll give it my best shot not to rip my spouse's head off when they make me mad. I will give it my best shot not to kill my children when I feel like I want to in a split second. That's kind of harsh, but how many of you parents totally relate to what I'm saying? Okay, good. I wasn't the only bad parent. I'm going to give it my best shot to honor the boss, to honor the owner. I'm going to give it my best shot to honor my employees. I'm going to give it my best shot to honor strangers. I'm going to give it my best shot to do these things that I'm learning here this weekend. But trying is just an attempt to fail. Don't waste your time. Sit down and have some bonbons instead. Don't try to lose weight either. Give it your best shot to lose weight. Give it your best shot to start working out. Give it your best shot to eat cleaner or healthier. Give it your best shot to cut down 50% of the time on fast food. Give it your best shot to learn new things. Give it your best shot to learn to trust him instead of just trusting yourself and everybody else that's around him. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's do or do not. Pick one. But try is a waste of time. So life and death is in the power of your tongue. So how we got here is that when I read this thing and I see life in here, I highlight it, I underline it, and I write, I receive that. And I put a date on it. Why? These are words, and life and death is in the power of my tongue. And so I'm choosing to eat and feed my faith with these words. I'm choosing to dwell on these words because they're words of life. When I see situations like, for example, King David, one of my favorite, not characters, but historical men and a king of a powerful nation, his story was Saul, making the comparison between these two people. Saul was a fool. David also was a fool. But one had a heart for God and followed his ways, even though he screwed up all the time. And the other one was foolish. I'm sweating like a pig. Is it warm in here? It depends on where you're sitting. It's sparse. Tell me where the cold section is, please, so I can come to you. Yeah, it's right in the middle is the cold section. Okay, I personally don't like sweat crawling down my back. It bothers me. It's just a river. Okay, so first one, Deuteronomy 3:22. Second one, first one's Deuteronomy 31, 6 through 8. You want to write these down. Why? Because these are powerful messages that you can eat. You say, you dwell on it, you focus on it. Write this down. What you focus on is what you get good at. What you repeat with your mouth and your mind, you receive. What you repeat with, Jordan, what you repeat with your mouth and your mind, you receive. So you can continue to repeat, I'm stupid. I keep failing. I keep screwing up. You can keep repeating that, or you can repeat something else. Make the choice. Third person, Isaiah 54:17. Fourth person, do you know who you are? Fourth, I did not even recognize you. Oh my gosh, that's hot. I love it. Jeremiah 32:27, you're such the perfect one for that. Next person, Proverbs 19:11, the one I'm really clinging to right now. Next one, Proverbs 16:32. Next one, which is you, Proverbs 15:18. Next one after that, Isaiah 57:15. We'll hold for there and then we'll go back through. Okay, you ready? So, what you focus on is what you get. What you focus on is what you get more of. What you repeat, you master. What you repeat, you master. Are you listening to me? What you repeat, you master. What you repeat, you master. Some of you are repeating things you don't want to master. So what do you want to master? That's where you add repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill. I don't care if you're stupid. Like, I'm stupid. I was not the smart kid. I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. Are you listening to me right now? I was the dyslexic. I was the kid when the teacher called on me to read in school, whether it was in the 3rd grade or I was in the 11th grade, broke out in hives, sweating, huge armpit rings, stuttering in front of the class. That was me. Is there anybody else that was you? Oh, wait, was any of you able to read in front of the class? Were you smarter than I was? I was the one that stuttered. I was the one that looked like a fool. I was the one that froze. Mandatory speech class. Why? There were 6 students in my junior year class. Everyone had to take it. Guess what I did my first speech on? How to iron. Why? Because I could hide behind an ironing board and an iron. It was a 10-minute speech. We could take a demonstration or we could talk about something. I ironed. With hives, armpit rings, stuttering. To now this. Why? What you focus on is what you get. What you repeat, you master. What you repeat, you master. First person go. Deuteronomy 31, 6 through 8. Listen to this.
Be strong and of good courage.
Stop! Say it again.
Be strong and of good courage.
Stop! What does it say? When do you need to hear that? BS. When do you need to hear it? When you're weak. When you're defeated. When was that written? Yes, 3,500 years ago. But it was actually spoken 3,500 years ago. Written 3,000 years ago. So listen. Be strong and of good courage. I don't need to hear that when everything's great. That was written for when things were not going to be great. That is written for someone who is afraid. What a loving God. What a loving God. Who is saying, you're going through a fearful time. I'm your Father. Be strong and of good courage. You got this. I believe in you. I've got you covered. I'm with you. Which means it's normal and natural to be afraid. And in our weakness, there's a strong message. Be strong and of good courage. What does it do? It encourages you. So when you're going through hell, get your butt around some encouragement. Do not be an idiot and isolate. Don't be an idiot and hide. Get around people of courage. This is how I have not committed suicide. Do you understand? Because one who battles with suicide and one who's battled with depression and one who's been abused like I was as a child, our natural action is recoil, hide out, shut everything off, shut everything down. That's our natural tendency. I'm telling you, no. Run straight for an encourager. Run straight for an encouraging message. Cling to it like it's life. Hold on to it with everything you have. That's why I'm not dead. Because of messages just like that, where I'm dumb enough to say, I received that. That's for me. Keep going.
Fear not, nor be afraid of them.
Stop. Usually when you're going through hell, there is a them. Wouldn't you say? How many of you have had a them while you're going through hell? In fact, it's usually the them that's causing the hell. Actually, it's all y'all. That's a Texas thing, by the way. It's a Southern thing. It's y'all is you and a few other people, but all y'all is everybody else. Just in case you needed that definition of all y'all and y'all, which I started saying y'all way before I moved to Texas, just so you know. We say that in California too, y'all. Say it all over again.
Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. And Moses called unto Joshua and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of a good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them.
Is that how you talk to your wife to get laid? Because I don't know if that's going to work. You like the King James Version, huh?
It works.
It works.
That's what I have.
That's what you have.
That's right.
That's awesome. In case some of you didn't understand that, the King James is a wonderful poetic language that some of us, especially the dyslexics, have a hard time understanding because it's kind of a backwards language. Okay? Fortunately, that passage was not any backwards stuff. But anyway, take off this and read it again. Doeth, you just say do. Go for it.
Awesome. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that goes with you. He will not fail you. He won't forsake you. And Moses called unto Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord has sworn unto their fathers to give them. And you shall cause them to inherit it.
Yes, so listen. There's a them when you're going through hell. And the straight instruction from a loving father is, don't fear. I'm with you. I got your back. I know there's a lot of them, and you feel like you're not going to win. You feel like it's all going to turn out really bad. But don't be afraid. I'm going to show you that I'm with you and I'm for you. This is where it's underlined in my Bible. And I receive that. I choose to believe that. I choose to think about it. I see the them. I feel the fear. But I choose to be of good courage. And I choose to believe that he is for me and not against me. The other part that I do